Sky's the limit, the truth is on our side. There's no time for worry, let's show the world our pride. Whether another comes up with a surprise, we all will discover where our fate will lie. On a blue wave, we rise to save the day. Only me, only you can let our hearts sail away on a blue wave.
And welcome to TruBlu Politics Podcast, episode 63. I am Karen, and I'm joined by my co-host Anita. And today we are so thrilled and honored to have our very special guest, Ben Boardman of Barn Owl Publications. I first discovered Ben listening to Zerlina Maxwell on Sirius XM one morning while I was driving to coffee, and he was talking about the project, the Barn Owl project, and I thought we have got to get this guy on because I just thought it was so brilliant. So welcome to TruBlu Politics Podcast, Ben.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
We're very happy
here.
we're happy to have you. And
Well,
so
start off by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, so I'm a Wisconsin boy. I grew up in Madison a long time ago. But during the 60s, I came from a very politically active family involved with the Vietnam War opposition. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth originally back in grade school. And since then, I've done many things, but I am at this point a family physician. I have worked as a doctor now for a little over 30 years. The majority of that practice has been in Jackson County, Wisconsin, which is a small rural county on the western side of the state. And it's from there that I've, gotten to know this county and the people in it. In the course of this time, I've tried what I can, seen what I can to make a difference in what's happening politically in this country, and hopefully able to make a difference, And
Right.
I've worked for the Democrats locally. I have done quite a lot of political work over the course of my life, but I'm now living in a town of 500 people, and this is where my wife grew up. So there's an awful lot of her relatives around, but it's been a slow step to become welcomed into the area. So that's where I sit right now. I'm still working full time as a doctor. And but if I want to get me into how I got into this,
yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have. All right, when I moved into Jackson County in 1998, I've always really liked the people here. There was a sort of a quiet presence, democratic presence in most of the community and the elected officials in the county, and that gradually shifted into a Republican over that time. When Donald Trump was elected for the second time, and on that very first day when he started putting down executive orders and moving in to seize the mechanisms of government and begin to take down the things I always thought would always be there, I was frightened. I was really scared to death. And I was very worried about how that would play out being a progressive person in a rural county that at this point had voted 55% for Donald Trump. And one thing had inspired me actually for quite a while, and that was a pastor in our county for probably 40 years has had a article in our county newspaper and in the shopper connected to that county newspaper that is basically a religious piece. On occasion he dabbles in social issues and political issues, but most likely he sticks with scripture. And it impressed me over the years that having that in there, whether you read it or not, changed the way you look at the town and at the community. This was representative of the community. Otherwise, the newspapers locally really hoped not to take any stand on anything. Just this is what's happening in government, and this is what's happening in local sports. These are the parades we're having. And so you could look at that and realize there's nothing else really going on that I need to attend to. And there's really no way to begin to see any progressive or leftist perspective in a community like this because, you have Fox News and you have this kind of bland center for everything else. And I realized this is something that I could begin to interject into. I could start to do the social interaction that needs to happen. There are 45% of this county voted for Kamala Harris. 45% feel unheard and isolated. And then there's a huge portion of people who didn't vote at all.
Right.
And I decided it's time. I'm going to start writing. That was all I could do. I'd written on occasion, letters to the editor and all this, but this one, I wanted to be sure it was in there. And I decided the best way to do this is to be present every week and to do this from now on. And I began to write articles that I paid to have placed in as ads. They were a 2-column wide, 6 inches tall. And I began just to write about what was happening, making 400-word articles, trying to keep it at a high school level of conversation. And I just began to post them.
Yeah.
I just, begin to do something.
Did you get a response from that immediately?
The first responses that I got were from the Democrats in Jackson County who said, "What are you doing?" And they were partly because everyone thought this was coming from the Democrats, and they were getting kudos and support. And so I said, "This is something I'm doing. This is not associated with the Democrats. This is what I'm going to do." Then I began. Then one guy I worked with says, "You need a handle. You can't just put these articles in. You need to have a name." And so we came up with Barn Owl, and Barn Owl has a little logo of a barn owl. And every time that pops up, every week as you flip through the paper, there it is. The articles. The articles began talking an awful lot about things that I was familiar with, about vaccinations, about childhood diseases. And then I began to go on with more observations. I described the Reichstag fire and how that fits into the issue of emergencies and people using emergencies in politics. I talked about D-Day. I talked about the terms woke and the term gaslighting and how that plays. I talked about law, different things the government was doing, like Project Esther. I talked about what science, if you're thinking that everybody knows everything about science and vaccines, I talked about the scientific process. I talked about the fallacies in logic and the kind of arguments you hear that are not truthful. And I've had 52 weeks, to fill up, and I've got a lot of things to say, and I've really wanted to make it clear and simple, something that people would turn to and read and not be intimidated by, and know that it's not too long. Okay, but it's there. And what I'm hoping is slowly it's breaking the bubble. into a lot of conversations. This arrives in everyone's mailbox as the shopper, like just the local shopper thing, shopper rag. It arrives on kitchen tables where we would never get otherwise.
Yeah.
And the response, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and I mean, Anita and I, when we started this, it was about a year before the 2024 election when we started our podcast. And one of the things that came onto our radar very early on was Project 2025. And so I have noticed among separation, church and state and some of the other topics and challenges that we've had. It's also good that to see you doing this is the immediate threat right now, and actually speaking to that and informing people, because I'm sure that there are so many people in the rural communities that they hear Donald Trump say, I don't know anything about it. They hear it, but they don't really know what it is. And, it's ongoing. And I think that there's so much noise going on, but yet behind the scenes, these things are still happening. Peter Thiel, the people, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, all of these people are quietly behind the scenes. And what's his name? Russell Vought are quietly behind the scenes implementing these policies.
Yes.
What you're doing, it reminds me of like in the revolutionary times when it was all pamphlets. And that's how they would get the message out. I mean, it's important that you're doing this because
I'm not Thomas Paine, but thank you.
No, you're not. But that's what it reminds me of.
Yes.
Because these people, like you said, all they have is Fox News and maybe hate radio, right-wing radio, talk radio.
Yeah.
So it's very important. And if everybody gets it in with this shopper thing right in their mailbox, I mean, you're reaching a lot of people in that area. Maybe everybody will have at least some little bit of knowledge.
Yeah. And I think that, so many people after after Trump was installed, I don't say that he was inaugurated or elected, he was installed. But, so many people after that really were at a loss of what they, what we all could do. What were the things, and trying to decipher what are the things that I can actually have control over and act on versus those things that are just kind of out of our control, and sifting through the noise and categorizing things appropriately so that we could be effective resistors. And what you're doing is a piece of that. And it takes a bunch of drops of grains of sand, pebbles in the pond to really make a change. And I think that if anything I can say is people like you, the work that you're doing and many of the independent media folks are doing, is that they are those pebbles. They're they're out there and they're taking the power that they have and the voice that they have, and they are helping to amplify the resistance and educate people. And I think that is so important. It's an imperative. That's the way we take it back.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think the thing to understand here too is it's not that hard to do. Okay. Now, granted, I had the funds to begin to pay for these ads. Shortly after that, I began to receive money from people in the community who wanted to support it. And since then, I have put in a very small amount of my own money. The rest has all been Substack, buy me a coffee, people locally who have decided that they're going to send me $25 a month. And so that's part of it. And the other piece is that people ask me, how did you do this? I wish I could do this. Well, you can. You can do it. You just have to step out of what's comfortable for you and contact people to get it started. I have all of my articles are available to anybody free of charge if they want to get a group together and pay for them to be published in their county. Okay. And that call has interested a whole lot of people. It did move the folks in the Democratic Party in Buffalo County, which is next to us, to do the same thing. I send them the ads, they post them themselves. I have been able to expand out of I was originally in Jackson and Clark counties. I've expanded now into Trempealeau County, and then we have Buffalo. So there are 4 counties doing this. I've had inquiries from other states, but it's just got to be done. I mean, resistance is expensive. Okay.
Why do you think, well, you live amongst these people. Why do you think so many of them support Donald Trump?
Well, in part because no one's asked them to support anybody else. Okay. And that's a big part of it from my perspective is when I've worked for the Democratic Party, they start investing as they're approaching an election. Okay. Fox News is on every day, 24/7. Okay. We have to be there 24/7. I think there's obviously people who are always going to be, conservatives. They're going to push for what they believe is right. Farmers are invested in their property and their land, and that naturally makes them a little more conservative. They are more worried about taxes and keeping their businesses going. But yeah.
But farmers, I mean, during Donald Trump's first term, farm bankruptcies went up 24%. They're already up in his second term, 46%, and they're going to be even higher this year. Yeah. So why did they go back and vote for him again, knowing they're voting against their own economic interests?
I don't have an answer for that. I think that's a good question to ask the farmers. I can tell you that people get into a very get into a traditional piece. They're worried about the cultural changes in the country that they don't understand. Yeah. And again, they aren't hearing from anybody else.
That's right.
Well, it's hard because, like you said, the only thing they're getting is Fox News and talk radio. And we don't have the kind of infrastructure to reach out to those communities. We don't have billionaires who are willing to just throw money at us to reach out to those areas. What you're doing is important, but we have to. I mean,
there's on that scale. I think it's like we don't have like anything at the scale of Fox News that are being pumped into the veins of rural America.
We don't have a 24/7 propaganda machine,
right? No, which is why what you're doing is so important, and just getting as many progressive voices out there, and it is going to have to be kind of it reminds me of like the hedgerow schools, almost just kind of you go into the community and you meet and you build community with people that are like-minded. And you had mentioned, I think when we were speaking on the phone, I asked you about the signs. Are you seeing a lessening of signs, Trump signs, and things like that in the community that you're in? And you had indicated that they're not as visible.
It's nothing like it was. Nothing like it was. There's a few hardliners that got their big flags out. For the most people, some people very pointedly withdrew their signs.
Really?
And other people just kind of quietly just took their signs down.
What about red hats? Are they still wearing their MAGA hats?
I see one a month, maybe. It's just not, it's not the same. And I was worried. Someone came up to me in our grocery store and said, "Hey, I've been reading your articles." He says, "I don't always agree with them, but I think it's your right to say it." And that's all he had to say.
Okay.
But other people say, well, I get the Jackson County Banner Journal because I like to read Barn Owl and I like to read the obituaries.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. So being part of that conversation, it can only help. And it is in terms of the amount it costs, it's pennies. If you were to compare to a single TV ad, for example, you could run this thing for a year on a television ad in one county.
They're hearing a different perspective And that's important because they may
those
never.
Perspectives.
Which facts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those perspectives have been taken. Those perspectives have been taken out of school. They've been very carefully and slowly removed. You don't hear about labor. You don't hear about past. You don't hear about the progressive era. You don't even hear about the New Deal. These are not things that are part of what you learn, or even the Vietnam War, for God's sake.
Well, the progressive era started in Wisconsin, right? Didn't it?
Yeah, that was a big part of it.
Yeah,
right.
So that's weird.
So there's just a lot of history that belongs to us that we should be proud of and know that this was things we fought for. That has been slowly taken from us.
And I think not take for granted that people know that true history. And as you say, I mean, and Anita knows this full well. Anita's living in Texas in San Antonio, and she knows this better than I know this in Illinois. But having curriculum written by the Republican legislature and having Hillary Clinton removed from history.
They removed it. Well, I was taught the Civil War was about states' rights and Northern aggression. So, I mean, I can remember now. My mother was from Massachusetts, thank God. So I came home and I said, "Hey, the Civil War was about Northern aggression and states' rights." And she goes, "Oh, that's BS." And then she educated me real quick. But I mean, most kids in Texas don't get that, and they're brought up that way. And we were talking to somebody else who was from Texas and from a smaller community outside of Dallas, and he was talking about how he grew up, thinking Democrats were just these evil, horrible monsters. And he was, and nobody, everybody he hung out with believed that. Everybody he knew. And so he had to educate himself. And that's the only way you can do that is to get out and go to school or, move out.
Yeah. And the right wing is not stupid. They know that's how you bring people to your side and how you control the thought.
That's why they hate education, higher education.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. And so you did publish a piece, Rural Education, on topic here. Can you tell us a little bit about that? There was some referendum passed this year.
Yeah. In this case, under rural education, I was very happy that the referendum for our school district, they've been trying for a while to get the property taxes increased locally so that they can pay for some additional things at the school. Some of it is for simple maintenance, some of it is for maintaining staff because there's been such serious cuts. And after trying a couple of times, they finally, with the spring election, voters approved the referendum in my school district, which was a great step forward. That was people in the town giving their blessing to the school to continue to work. This year, there were 75 referendums on the ballot in Wisconsin. 46 of them passed. Some of them failed by a few votes. But when they fail, this cuts funding to schools and even forces them to fire people, forces them even maybe to close and consolidate with another district. This is a problem because, as I say in the piece, the big thing that small towns produce is not milk and corn; it's educated children. And if you have a really good school system, young people will come to your town to raise their children, and they will stay there. If you have a kind of like this, or if it's a rough school, or nothing interesting's ever happened there, they'll go find it somewhere else.
Well,
and
here
so there's a reason for
I'm
that.
sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to say they just voted in this voucher system here in Texas. So all these rural communities, I mean, they're really kind of left out in the cold. They really oppose this, and because what's happened is, even though they get vouchers, a lot of these kids, it's not like they have a private school in their little community anyway.
Right.
So the parents would have to be able to drive them to a city where they could go to one of these private schools, even if they got the voucher, right? So that would cost money and time, and a lot of these kids can't afford that. And their parents, this is anyway. So it's taking money away from all these rural communities, these schools, and these rural communities.
Yeah, well, we're losing over $700 million to private vouchers in Wisconsin. Yeah, and it's certainly not around here.
This, along with all future episodes of TruBlu Politics, are sponsored by our wonderful TruBlu crew listeners and our supporters on Patreon. As a small startup podcast, our Patreon members help us pay the bills to keep the lights on and also allow us to keep investing in equipment upgrades for even better quality content in the future. We know that monthly budgets are tight right now due to Trump's and the Republicans' unnecessary tariffs and endless wars, so we have changed our membership fees to monthly donations. Whether you are a paid subscriber or just want to come to hear progressive voices and for community, all are welcome at any level. If you subscribe monthly at the cup of coffee level, that is so appreciated but not necessary. Whether $1, $5, or more, anything is welcome but not required. Anita and I also have some exciting news to share. A few weeks ago, we began recording TBP daily videocasts, which you can find on our YouTube channel, TruBlu Politics. Please like and smash that subscribe button. Or listen on my Substack page, Resistance Journal, or on our Patreon page, along with all of our bi-weekly podcasts. Go to patreon.com/TruBlu Politics Podcast. Of course, you can always listen to the bi-weekly podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, thanks so much for your love and support. Thank you, everybody. This episode is brought to you by Terra Threads. That's Terra like the earth and threads like clothing. Terra Threads is an online shop for secondhand and vintage clothing and footwear. Every piece handpicked and given a second life. Beautiful one-of-a-kind finds, great prices, and a little kinder to the planet than buying new, and bonus, no tariffs. And now, TruBlu listeners get 25% off any order. Just use the code TruBlu25 at checkout. That's TruBlu followed by the number 25, all one word, TruBlu25. You can shop on eBay by going to bit.ly/TerraThreads eBay. That's bit.ly/Terra, TERRA, Threads eBay, all one word. Or on Etsy at bit.ly/TerraThreads Etsy. Same start, bit.ly/Terra, TERRA, Threads Etsy. Both links are in the episode description too. Refresh your wardrobe with something one of a kind. That's Terra Threads.
Yeah. It's a real problem. As a matter of fact, the Republicans that opposed it, because a lot of these Republicans represented some of these communities, and so they voted against it. Well, they were forced out of the Texas legislature.
Yes.
Because they wanted to have this voucher system.
Right.
It's not popular.
It's not popular. Not
But
even in these Republican communities.
Well, the Republican representative that we had, the state representative that we had locally here for a very long time was a Republican. And when he finally left, he said one of the problems he had is that he couldn't talk to the new Republicans. They thought he was a turncoat because he had friends in the Democratic side. And he saw the shift going on. He couldn't work across the aisle without being called a traitor.
Yeah.
And that moved him out too.
Yeah, that happened here for sure. Because a friend of ours who's in the state legislature got forced out. because of something like that. Well, he voted against school vouchers is what happened, and they forced him out. But he had worked with the Democrats occasionally too, and
And we're seeing the same thing play out in Washington, right? Where, once there were, some Republicans that would, reach across the aisle and work in, conjunction with the Democrats, any agreement, any kind of cooperation, they get rendered, as establishment or traitors, right?
Thomas Massey. Look what happened to him. Because he walked with Ro Khanna on the Epstein files and a couple others. I think the stuff about the Iran war, he opposed that.
Yeah. Well, and we just celebrated our 250th anniversary.
Yes.
I mean, some celebrated more than others. Some celebrated not really knowing what they were celebrating, but like to dress up like the American flag and walk around and get in the heat of Washington, D.C. and things like that, and watch, fireworks that were completely smoked out because it was too many, the mismanagement of the celebration. And I was telling Anita, I'm watching this Netflix series, The American Experiment, and just seeing some of these Republicans, like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, and is it Jeff Flake? Is that his name?
Jeff Flake used to be in.
He used
from
to
Arizona.
be, and he left. Yeah, he courageously ran away. And then let's see who else. There was somebody else. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike Pence, the former vice president, who was, Trump supporters were calling for the hanging
ran
of.
out. Yeah.
So anyway, but it's so interesting to me to listen to them speak about the founding of our country, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and sounds like, they know exactly what it was, meant to do. One of the things they talk about is protecting the country from despots, and
Ted Cruz was in there. Ted Cruz was in there. Yes. Unbelievable.
And and then and then you see every single one of them, maybe not, Rand Paul, but pretty much, I mean, certainly Ted Cruz, capitulating and running to the Oval Office to, gain favor. And so they
didn't believe any of it.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't believe any of it. And it's so troubling and ironic that here we are at the 250th anniversary and we are literally in a constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's depressing.
Yeah.
I know Donald Trump was just over there in Turkey for the NATO summit, just humiliating the United States, by threatening Greenland again. He wants Greenland, talking about Iran. I mean, it's just, I don't know how we're going to make it through the next 2.5 years.
Yeah. But you put this piece in Barn Owl, our 250th anniversary, and I'm just going to read a little bit of what you said. How many nations have survived under the same basic government, laws, and constitution for 250 years? There are two. Two have kept the same constitutional republic for so long, the United States of America and San Marino. San Marino is a little blip of a nation surrounded by Italy. Its constitution has remained in use since 1600. Most governments never last that long. Most durable governments, democracies, or dictatorships last 30 to 35 years before a major change. Our government has also changed over time. Every time we added a new amendment to the Constitution, there has been a change to our government. There have been 27 amendments to our federal constitution, the first 10 in 1791. What are the changes that you think that we need to make right now? Like if let's say we take the House and the Senate in the midterms, and let's say we take back the executive branch and maybe even add some, congressional seats to the Democratic side. What are some of the changes that you think need to happen, and starting with the most crucial first?
I'd say the number one most crucial is to make um, um, public funding of all elections mandatory, and that there be no further payments from corporations, and the ability to come back in as a advocate for any business once you've been um, once you've been in once you have been an elected official, should be illegal. One
No
thing that'll
revolving
do
door.
is, yeah, one thing that'll do is that will knock a lot of people out who see public service as a way of lining their pockets.
Mhm.
There will always be people who want to do good and want to be part of it. And if you get the guys out of there, make them less interested in, well, I really can't make a buck there, and I'll have to go somewhere else. They'll do that. That's one thing. In terms of the Supreme Court, um, I think we need to get busy with impeachment before we even talk about enlarging the court. I think there has to be a set of established rules, ethical rules that force the court to remain responsible. You cannot spend a week on a yacht of a wealthy person and then go ahead and vote, and then rule on anything like that. That is grounds by itself for removal, period.
Well, you have to
So
do the
those are
Supreme
two
Court.
things.
You
Go
have to
ahead.
do the Supreme Court first, because they're going to not allow you to take corporate money out of elections or have public funding. So I would say reform the Supreme Court, and then we do the rest of this stuff so they don't overturn whatever we do.
I think you do it. Yeah, I think you get started with that. I think there's some tribunals that probably will need to be held once you have a Justice Department and once they add it up and realize how much money has been stolen, and they begin to realize how many people have been incarcerated and mistreated or have been killed.
Yeah.
And those are all pieces that have to be pulled together. Then, boy, I mean, God, how many things need to be done differently?
Yeah,
But you're talking
That's
about accountability. So that's exactly what we need to demand that from every candidate, that
Absolutely.
they are going to seek accountability for all of this, for all the theft, for all the, like you said, the people that have been incarcerated and thrown in detention camps and deported and illegally.
I think restoring voting rights. I feel, and writing that into law, codifying Roe into law, making sure that, I mean, and I am so tired of, we can't do anything about the Electoral College crowd. I mean, like, your article here says, I mean, we have the founding fathers left, basically laid the foundation. It was a starting point. It wasn't the final destination. And there are things that, they understood that as time went on, that people were going to be able to make changes to this document, right?
The Constitution was a compromise. It always was.
It sure was.
It was a compromise with the southern states and with many other people.
Wouldn't it be easier to make it DC, Puerto Rico, what is it, Guam, those other states, make them states before then reforming the electoral college, or get rid of it?
I say abolish it, not even reforming
it. Abolishing the electoral college. I don't know how hard that will be, but in the meantime, we make DC a state, we make Puerto Rico a state, and that way.
I think the very first thing you do, if you can actually capture the Congress and the presidency, is you take that power and you use it. You don't pussyfoot around. You use it to bring a lot of people accountable and begin to shift things so that, just as they're doing, that you cannot just move in and take it over.
That's what Karen and I talked about. We have to think we can do big things again.
Yes. It's a mandate. I mean, let's be real. I mean, if it's a mandate if they call it a mandate, we can call it a mandate. And, it's just we have throughout our history, we have been at these tipping points where there should have been accountability and people kind of lost their nerve and just kind of backed off of it.
Yeah.
I think, the Civil War, that's one moment that
Richard Nixon.
Nixon, that's another moment. And
Ronald
then,
Reagan.
and George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. And,
Yep.
that was another. And to move on, it is not good for the country. It is not for the good of the country to not hold people accountable, So, I mean, I get, Anita and I talk about this all the time. We fully understand the challenges that President Obama faced, especially being the first Black president. And you saw the Republican freak out and the, Republican vote base freak out over having a Black man as president. And so that was a very, understandably, but we should never again say that we're going to let people off the hook and move on for the good of the country and not hold war criminals accountable. And boy, oh boy, do we have a case for it now.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Well, I guess the next Democratic president should just get in there and start signing executive orders, because that's what Donald Trump has been doing. He's been running the country by signing executive orders. He doesn't even use Congress. They got their big, beautiful bill passed, and that was it. That's what they did. And he's been signing these executive orders. He just signed an executive order allowing mentally ill people to buy guns, to purchase guns. I mean, people that have been adjudicated mentally ill. He's doing all kinds of incredible damage. We can do good things.
Right. And I mean, I think President Obama, because of course the Republican Party vowed to obstruct every single piece of legislation he wanted to put forward, when the housing market was crashing, the economy was crashing, people were losing their jobs left and right, and they vowed, instead of rolling up their sleeves and working, at a bipartisan level, to stop the bleeding and to help, people make, get back to a point where they could survive, they opted to play partisan politics and obstruct everything that we needed to do. And so
we compromised. We compromised too much when it came to healthcare.
And we did, yeah.
Because,
too, President Obama had, used executive orders. But
he did use executive orders, not like that.
Yeah, but not like that, exactly.
But the whole thing with healthcare, he should have gone in there. And like you said, he was the first Black president. I mean, there's a lot of things that people were watching him. He was held to a different standard. We all know that. But what I wish he would have done, instead of spending all that time trying to get Republican ideas and get their input and everything, which they didn't even vote for it in the end, right? Then he dropped the public option. I mean, it became this weaker thing. Basically, a Republican idea was Mitt Romney's healthcare plan that we ended up with. And they still voted against it. So no more of that.
No, it's a cautionary tale. Exactly. No, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, we definitely have our work cut out for us, Yeah.
And one thing is that I want people to know in urban areas that there's a strong base of people in rural areas that believe exactly what you believe. All right. They are not as likely to speak out because they're in smaller communities and people don't like to rock the boat, but they believe these things. And they believe in being fair. They struggle the same as everyone else with health insurance. They struggle the same as everyone else getting food on the table, getting meat in the locker. Some of them deer just to make sure they have meat through the winter. And so these are not enemies, because their point of self-interest really is with what we are offering. They are working against their own self-interest in supporting Donald Trump and the Republicans, and mostly because they're the ones who are selling something.
Yeah.
We need
what do you
to
mean?
Be better we need to be better salespeople for the causes that we believe in.
Okay, but wait a minute. I looked back, rural communities overwhelmingly supported Democrats, like under FDR, until the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. And then, of course, with Ronald Reagan and his, Southern strategy. and then he would talk about young bucks, and he was always making it seem like it was those people that were, living off the government. So I don't know what Democrats can do.
Well, I think go to those places. I think,
But
remember,
we have
Joe Biden's policies.
I understand. Joe Biden didn't abandon those places. Joe Biden put more funding into those places than he did in any blue states or blue areas.
Yeah, but and that is true. And to people like all of us that pay attention to that, we understand that. But we've said this number of times, and even when President Biden was in, he didn't brag about it enough.
No, it's not. But you know what? But they still vote against their economic interests, and they do it because of racism. A lot of the times.
I look at a community like McHenry County here in Illinois, and they have Democratic representation. Now they didn't have that before, so it really was. I'm going to say it's been in the last maybe 15 years that there's been a swing from, solid red to more purple and even blue. Like it was Lauren Underwood was representing McHenry County. She was a Black woman. And then I think they redrew the district, and then it was Jan Schakowsky. So, I mean, I do think that, there are shifts, and I think that right after President Trump got back in again, and we saw these Democrats going into those places where Republican representation they weren't holding their town halls. So I think that it's still, I don't know if they're still doing that, if it's just not being reported on, but I think that's the kind of thing that they can do. These Democratic representatives go into those rural communities and hold the town halls.
But I've seen that. Beto went to every single
No,
town.
I know you have, but I'm just saying, and Beto's done it, but he's an example of it, of what works, and there's so many others.
They still voted against him.
Well,
look at Uvalde.
Yeah,
Uvalde, they came in and slaughtered 19 kids, and they still voted for Greg Abbott.
But that's also Texas.
Thanks.
I'm just going to say
that's true. It may be different in Wisconsin. In the South,
I do think it is because and I'm specifically talking about since the last election. Where when Democrats go into these spaces and they speak to these voters, I mean, we're seeing those signs coming down. I think that is a positive sign. We've seen shifts away from the Republican Party and over to, we have seen districts flip. So I think I'm going back as far as, the last election. I do think that we have some opportunity here.
That's right. We've seen some special elections where we've seen some change. I mean, some movement towards the left. And
we just have to keep pushing.
Yeah,
I mean, what are you going to do otherwise? What are your choices?
Yes.
No, what you're doing.
Or move to Puerto Vallarta. What are you going to do?
Right. Oh, I don't have that money. I don't have the money. I don't think they want me.
So, but one thing in terms of how to talk, say, about racism when I'm in what I'm writing, the last thing I want to do is to scold people, to accuse them of doing bad things for someone else, because no one likes the thought, even if they're uncomfortable around another race, they don't like to think of themselves as racists.
Right.
But in one article I wrote, which was called Iron Range in 1907, I don't know if you had a chance to read that one. I'm describing what happened in the iron mines in northern Minnesota when the Finns and the Swedes went out on strike. They didn't bring in Finnish or Swedish strikebreakers. They got Greeks. And when the Greeks were organized, they went and got Italians. And then once they had all these different people there, they began pitting them one against the other. So that, well, those are darker people in Southern Europe, and we're, but with the goal not of getting people to hate each other, but with the goal of continuing to earn money the way they want to. That racism has everything to do with money and what you can make by getting people to think that someone else is worse than them or more dangerous than them. And as a result, that area of northern Minnesota has probably the ethnically most diverse area in all of Minnesota. People from every different part of Europe ended up there as a strikebreaker at one time or another.
But it's different
They've done that with blacks They brought blacks into coal mines in West Virginia to break strikes.
And I think here, I'm just going to read this. So anytime someone tells you that a group of people who are different from you are the cause of your problems, stop a moment, ask yourself, who benefits from the fight? Are black or brown people, gay people, immigrants, feminists, or activists really causing your problems? Or are you being pushed to blame them so someone else can get what they want from you? That is so important, that message.
Yeah.
Just those small things. I'm doing 400 words. I'm just trying to get one thought across. And part of the goal is to continue to be there. Just plain be there every week.
Yes.
Well, that's why Donald Trump is trying to erase Black history, because the more people understand it, the more people learn, the more it kind of, takes away that weapon they use.
Oh,
to separate us, division.
Yeah. Well, they've understood that, and they've the Republican Party, because of course we know this didn't just start with Donald Trump. The Republican Party for decades has been, defunding education, leaving curriculum to the states to write whatever they want, and pass off the Civil War as the War of Northern Aggression and things like that. And so, I think that it is imperative that we understand how we got here, and how we got here was the Republican Party, and Donald Trump identified the Republican Party as the vehicle that he could take to ride to power.
Yeah.
So
and when Russia helped him, what did they do? They used, to separate the Democratic Party. They brought in racism. They brought in, remember, they got black influencers to trash Hillary Clinton. So it's been used.
Willie Horton.
Yeah. Oh my God, Willie Horton and Jesse Helms. Remember the black hand, or taking your job, or something like that. It was insinuating that they were taking your job. Affirmative action. Yeah, they've been using it for as long as they can. I mean, as long as
as long as there have been different. Since 1619.
Yeah. Which is, I think we're at a tipping point. I think that, there's a lot of reckoning going on in America, and I think it needs to continue, and we need to keep having these conversations and doing the work, because we are fighting against, a Goliath here, as far as, right-wing media, people like Elon Musk buying one of the most successful social media platforms, and the
Ellisons buying CBS and Paramount, and now it's going to be CNN. I think he's buying CNN, right? Larry Ellison is.
Yeah, I think that.
Or David Ellison, one of the Ellisons.
One of them. Yeah.
So it's a scary time.
It is, but it's a hopeful time too, and I think doing, seeing the work that you're doing, hearing about the response that you're getting. And I want to make sure that we can help amplify the work that you're doing. I want to make sure that people know how they can use your content and to promote and to get the word out in their own communities. So can you tell us where would one go to, how do we go about doing that?
First off, if you want to reach out, and if you want to see each week's piece, you can subscribe on barnowl57.substack.com. And that gets you onto my site in Substack. You can subscribe. It's free. I'd like you to pay something, but it's free, by God. Then, in addition to that, I can be reached at 57Boardman, BOARDMAN, at gmail.com. I'm particularly interested in anyone who feels that this product would be useful in their county. And because they are available, every one of them. So you don't even have to think about what you're going to write. If you don't like what I write one week, you can pull something else out of the archives and write that and put that in instead. The key is to begin to be a part of the conversation. everywhere you go. Okay. And those are the ways to reach me. I guess that's pretty much it right there. You can also reach me directly through the Substack site at Barn Owl. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. If anybody wants to start their own Barn Owl, I guess, like you do, Ben, and write their own little column in there, I guess that's giving them an idea.
Definitely inspire the writers out there. Absolutely. And then, but yeah, like you say, I mean, it's kind of like, here it is, take it and run with it.
Just do it. Just go with that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit under the radar. And these are small businesses that appreciate your ads, and they still distribute at a very ground level way to the people in the community. Everybody who, at least certainly if you're over 45, you read the county paper, you read the Shopper, you want to know what your neighbors are doing, and this is part of it.
Yeah, it's a lifeline. It's a lifeline. Yeah. So come on, join the resistance. Let's go. Let's get, the word out. And Ben, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Ben,
thank you for
wonderful
having
you on.
This.
And we will link to all of how people can reach you. Your Substack, and then also your email. We'll link to that on this episode. But we really appreciate the work that you're doing and agreeing to come and talk to this little podcast. And
thank you yourselves for the work you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Ben Boardman, thanks for joining us.
Thank
everybody.
you for coming on.
Get over to Substack and look at the Barn Owl publication site, and we will link to it in our liner notes. Okay. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye.